Welcome to the All Ambient podcast, where we dig into the creative process, hear untold stories, and explore the brilliant minds behind some of the finest ambient music out there. I'm your host, Mike Graff. I'm excited to be in this together with you. Let's get going. Again, welcome to the podcast, everyone. My name's Mike Graff, and I make music as Dear Gravity. It is incredible to be here together with you. I am super excited for you to get the chance to hear from Tiffiny Costello of Housekeys today. But before we dig into that conversation, I, of course, want to say a big thank you to the premier music licensing site for all things ambient and cinematic music. Of course, I'm talking about All Ambient. If you're a creator that doesn't want to dig through an endless catalog of music that might not be the best fit, All Ambient is the perfect licensing site for you. All Ambient has expertly curated song bundles that are all designed around a unique theme to fit your film, video, or project perfectly. And there's no annual subscription fee either. You only pay for what you need. It is a great solution for your music licensing needs. Go check it out at all-ambient.com. That's all-ambient.com. If you stick around, we do have an exclusive promo code for our podcast listeners that we'll share in just a little bit. My guest today is Tiffiny Costello, who makes music as Housekeys. Tiffiny is a brilliant mind in the ambient space. Tiffiny brings a unique approach to creating music. Someone who, as a physics major, is able to translate so much of her experience into a signature approach to creating music. I think you're going to be floored by this conversation today. I can't wait to share it with you. Without any further ado, here's my conversation with Tiffiny Costello of Housekeys. Well, I am thrilled today to be sitting down with the mastermind behind Housekeys. Tiffiny Costello, welcome to the All Ambient podcast. So glad to have you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Oh man, it's going to be great. Tiffiny, honestly, I've been enjoying your music for a while now, and I've been excited for this interview for a while, to be totally honest, because not only do you have kind of a unique approach within the genre, and you've got some really unique sounds that I can't stop listening to, but there's some stuff in your story and some different projects that you do that the moment that I started digging into them, I was like, oh my gosh, like number one, Tiffiny is a genius. And number two, just the idea of thinking outside the box. You strike me as someone who really thinks outside the box well and kind of thrives in that. So yeah, I just started geeking out the moment that I knew that this conversation was going to happen. So really excited to be together with you.
Yeah, awesome. Excited.
Let's go. So kind of from the beginning, Tiffiny, I'd love to hear a little bit about how you got started in music. What does your origin story in music look like?
So it's kind of maybe, I don't know if it's typical or not. Took piano lessons as a kid. So classically trained, but I never practiced. So I was a really bad student. So I know, I can read sheet music and I can improvise and I've got the tools. I just don't have I'm a sloppy piano player, to be totally honest.
I hear you. Guilty as charged.
But I know enough to express what I'm trying to express.
Yeah.
With that being said, I kind of got my start in playing publicly. I used to be very involved in the Christian music scene. Not like on the radio, but I played in a few worship bands. I played bass and then I played keys. And
amazing.
That music is very emotional on purpose.
Yeah.
And so I have always kind of been in this emotional music world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was in high school when Coldplay was really popular. And so that's, piano. And I was like, okay, if he can do it, then I could do it. And, I never really had the guts and I didn't really know how to form a band or a music project. And later I did discover I'm not necessarily a good band leader and that you have to have that person. So I typically I just started, I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to do my own thing then. And yeah, several years later, I got really into grouper and that vibe, Stars of the Lid, that kind of thing. And that's when I was like, okay, I think this might be the area I could exist in. And I started kind of in a like gritty shoegazy vibe when I was living in Denver, which is appropriate for Denver. And yeah,
I'm working on a shoegazy vibe with somebody from Denver right now. That's so funny.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. It's like the goth vibe in Denver kind of weaved its way in. But yeah, so I started working on stuff there, and I played my very first show there. And I was kind of in the noise world at first, just because I was also learning how to use pedals. I didn't know how, I did not.
Yeah.
To be honest, whenever I would hear a guitar, like now I know it's a delay effect. I was like, they're playing that note every single time in time. But now I know, I'm like, it's a delay pedal.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, kind of very experimental, learning how to, which I like that, because if you don't know the rules, then you're not breaking them, or you are breaking them, but you don't know if you are. And so you don't care.
Yeah.
You know, so, but then, I moved to Seattle, and then I got a little more floaty there, which is also appropriate. So, and then pandemic hit. And so you know, all of us were at home making jewelry or whatever. And so I got
whatever to keep us sane. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So I worked on music then. I put, you know, I would give myself little projects like, okay, I'm going to record just one sketch a day, and I'm going to put it on the internet and not care what happens, because I'm definitely a perfectionist, and that limits me a lot. But that's just become good practice of like, I don't care, whatever. I'm just putting it up. I don't care.
Yeah.
You know, get the stuff I don't care about out first.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then I lived in New York. I didn't play any shows in New York. That scene is incredibly difficult to do anything in, mostly because I didn't have a car, and my gear is not easy to carry around. But yeah, and then I mean, this is the super short version. Then I'm 9 years later, I'm back in Texas. I just kind of was like, you know, I've lived everywhere I would want to live, and I think I'm just ready to like just regroup, go back home near friends and family. Pandemic was very isolating for me, you know, so I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to Texas. And also being back where I have lived and know what it's like, I'm like, I don't have any FOMO here, because I already know what's going on, and I'm I can stay at home or not, like whatever.
Right.
So, because like in New York and Denver and Seattle, I was always like, okay, I'm not taking advantage of these amazing places. So I don't feel that way here in Fort Worth. But,
that's a super unique thing. Everything you said was awesome, but that very last thing, that's really interesting, where when you're in unique places, there very much is that drive to enjoy the place and to get out and do it, which is cool. And to have those different experiences and all that, and how that can play into your artistry. But at the same time, like, am I maybe using that almost, I don't want to say a crutch, but like, am I using that as like, I'm choosing to do that instead of creating, or instead of like getting under the hood and actually like putting some stuff down that I was really meant to be doing in the first place. And that's, I get that there's some complexities to that equation, because sometimes you get inspired by going out and then you come back in and you kind of like turn that into, you know, a new piece or whatever. But there is something to having, you know, your recording space, or having that place that, you know, that place that, like you said, is not FOMO inducing so that you can get the work done. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a good word. I need to take myself up on that word more often. That's great. Well, man, Tiffiny, all the different genres that all your work spans, and just kind of throughout the past projects and whatnot, it's always fascinating to find out what people have been into along the way, that whether it's like a mindset informing, or whether it's an actual, like, here's how I hear that genre in the tone of this patch or this guitar or whatever. It's interesting that how all, you know, the journey informs the different stuff that we're doing now. Tell me a little bit more about the stuff that you are doing, clearly with Housekeys and kind of all the facets of that we're going to explore. But what are you up to right now? Like, what are the projects that have you excited, or the things that you're exploring that are at the front of your thinking right now?
Yeah. So the last thing I played was Dallas Ambient Music Nights here in DFW. And it was the first time I hired someone to perform with me. I hired a violinist.
Yeah.
His name's Sean Redman. He actually used to play with like Polyphonic Spree, and just very, very talented guy.
Cool.
Yeah. And that's one of the things is I'm like, I think I'm probably ready to not be a solo project anymore. And so when I played at South by Southwest this year, I also brought a cellist in
So cool.
And it's funny because these people are classically trained. And I'm like, here's a piece of paper with, I think these are the chords I'm going to use, but here's the emotions I'm going to be working through. So follow along. And of course they can.
Do you just like watch their brain break in their eyes? You're just you're watching them, everything that they've known just falling apart. And yet I'm sure, and I've listened to bits and pieces of the South by Southwest. It turned out brilliant.
Yeah.
It really did.
Yeah, that Dan Radin was awesome. And was so fun to like just collaborate with and roam around Austin with. But they're used to being handed like an arrangement for their instrument. And I'm like, here are my chords, maybe. Because I do improvise a lot live, but I've also started not improvising as much live. And I mentioned this earlier. I was in Iceland last year recording and I actually wrote music that they're actual songs. They're not like improvised pieces. And so I've had to learn how to play those because I'm like, okay, I've got to learn how to play the stuff I wrote. I guess I got to act like a normal musician for once. But so that's like, that kind of like, to answer the question, collaborating with other people and then actually letting the songs take form and not be as nebulous, but also still like, I don't necessarily know how many measures I'm playing this section for. I just play it until it feels time to move on to the next one.
Yeah.
So those are kind of some of the things.
I love that. And it's funny because you started pressing into something that I was really just about to ask. The idea of, because you're able, and it seems like it's something that not only you're able to do, but also really, really talented at doing, is to just flow on the spot and just improv and find whatever the moment is really sort of seeking to have. What does that look like when you put together a new project or creative process? Is one of the very first things that you're answering to yourself, like, is this going to be kind of what you just said, like in Iceland? Like, are these going to be structured songs, or is this just going to be a whatever? It's going to just kind of flow. Like, do you approach your creating and the stuff that you release in that mindset, or is it really more of one or the other? And there's just the structured songs are kind of an exception to the rule, or that the improv stuff is kind of an exception to the rule? Yeah. What does that balance look like in your world?
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. It's a mix of both.
Yeah.
One thing I do is I will take music that I love and I will deconstruct a song. I'll go look, okay, what chords are they using? How are they transitioning? Like, and I, when I listen to music, I hear every single instrument and I'm like taking it apart, which is why I can't listen to instrumental music while I'm like studying, because I'm listening like and hearing the music. I have to listen to white noise.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do a little bit of like, I'll deconstruct a song that strikes me in a certain way. And I'm like, I want to exhibit that emotion. So what chords are they using? And people might consider that copying, but I'm not copying because I'm just deconstructing the song. And then I'm moving into my own, like, okay, these are the chords, but I want to rearrange them in this way. And I kind of like this effect on it and this, that, and the other. But then I actually veer away from it and I usually end up creating something kind of totally different. Everything that has already been created in the universe already exists. Nothing is new. And so like you can't, like these people who are suing each other for chords, you're using my chord. Okay, that's physics. Sound is physics. So you can't own physics. Sorry.
Preach. Preach.
Anyways, but honestly, the improv side, I use Instagram and YouTube Shorts as, okay, I'm testing an idea. I'm just going to flow with something and I'm going to try this effect out. I'm just going to flow. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just going to do it. And then I'm going to put it up on Instagram and we'll see what happens. And I record everything I ever practice or flow, because you have to hit record every time you're sitting down. Like, I've learned the hard way.
Yeah.
I'm like, I will remember this tomorrow. Nope. No, I won't.
Oh, so no. Of course not. No.
Yeah. I save everything I record. And I actually have used a lot of Exploded Views was that, like, pieces that I had scratched together. And then I re-recorded them in a good, like, what was presentable for that EP. I used a lot of loops that I like fleshed out. I used those in Iceland. We ran them through a Nagra tape machine. That way it wasn't just like
So cool.
iPhone audio or whatever. But yeah, so it's a lot of, I'm just going to experiment and put it up on Instagram stories. And plus I get feedback that way. I'm working alone. I only know what I know and I only have my taste. So I throw it out there just to kind of see what the vibe is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a little of both. Yeah, like, of course, the main thing is showing up. So I don't ever sit down thinking, okay, I'm going to write this kind of song in this key and it will have this many parts, because I have tried to do that and I get super frustrated because I can't always create what I'm like feeling or hearing in my head. But I'm always like really surprised and just I get excited about things that I just happen upon or stumble upon with these little improvised sessions. Like there's one video I haven't put up yet where I was just playing around and then you can see me like, I'm like, that is so cool. Oh my God. Like just stuff like that. So
right. Yeah.
Like I didn't intend to write that and it came up and that's awesome. So
yeah.
Overall process.
I love it. And that's an inspiration to me for sure. I am just, left of center enough from kind of my typical approach where I, it's similar to, what is it? Brian Eno's oblique strategies where it's like, hey, pull out a new card today. And it's like, hey, pull out a card that says, start a session the way Tiffany would start today. Just the idea of like the blank canvas. I mean, there's something really valuable to that for any of us to get outside of sort of your normal parameters, not only just to see, what new creative things happens, but also I think to continue to put ourselves in a place where we're growing and to not narrow the blinders to like, okay, here's my singular thing. And don't get me wrong, singular things are great, but I don't know if that's what I'm cut out to do or really what a lot of artists are cut out to do, where we're always growing and changing and all that. So that's a great thing. I love it. Of course, Exploded Views that you mentioned, that's your incredible EP that you put out on Slow Echo that is available on all ambient, and just such a fascinating concept. And to be honest, I probably need to be a little bit more daring myself in the idea of Instagram Live or Instagram Stories, just trying out some stuff in front of people. I love that concept and really just kind of the new frame of mind that puts your pieces into. And it segues into something that I found in your world of all the stuff that you do, Tiffiny, the tape loop collaborations that you have on your site. And I want you to explain it. I don't want to try to explain it, but I came across that and immediately it was just like, this is so cool. Like not just the sonic results, not just the, like what happens, but just really the heart behind it and what it's getting at in the first place. So talk me through your world of Housekeys tape loop collaborations, kind of what it is, how one connects to it, but also, maybe just some of the stories on what has come from it.
Yeah. So I was learning how to use tape loops. This was before the pandemic, but yeah, I was learning how to use tape loops. I got really into Heinbach's YouTube channel where he's just such cool stuff. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, well, I want to learn how to do that. And so I just, taught myself how to do it. And then I really like collaborating and sharing, and I don't like to hoard techniques or anything like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, here's how I made this sound. This is exactly how I made it. Because some people are like, I'm not going to tell you how I did that. So I was like, okay, this is cool. I'm going to just throw these out there, and why not just put them up as a download and let people download them and do whatever they want with them. And then I can share them. And I got some cool response. I should make more. I'm behind on that project.
Yeah.
It's overdue for a refresh. Yeah. So I have a few tape loops up there. I recorded them from my Rhodes. Most of them are from my Rhodes or my Nord. And I'm actually just looping something, and then I'm letting the tape loop record that. And then people download them and they do whatever they want with them. And there's been some just cool things, like people have reversed the tape loop and then they layered their own instrument over it, or chopped it up here and there. And it was just super cool. And some of them are posting it on their Instagram stories. And so it's just like, here, create something and to have a cool little collaboration with me for no reason at all other than to just create.
Well, right. I mean, kind of the open invitation of that, I think, is one of the most beautiful things, where it's not this like exclusive, hey, you want to collaborate with me? Talk to my manager over here and do this.
Yeah.
And like go through all the, the rungs of that. It's like, hey, you want to do it? Cool. Here's some resources right now that you can download right now and start working on right now. And I think that there's something just really like humble and beautiful about that. And for it to create some of the results it has, like you said, it's so cool. Yeah, it's fascinating. Okay, well, let this be an encouragement or a catalyst, but I gladly will sign up to, if you put up some new stuff, I gladly will sign up to be one of the first folks to download and start mangling and have some fun, and we can make something together. That sounds great.
Yeah. Awesome.
Exciting.
Exciting. It's another reason for me to get more up there too.
Yeah. Hey, and there'll be plenty of people ready to jump on board for sure. Okay, Tiffiny, we have to talk about the planetarium shows. Like, I am fascinated by this, and I takes every fiber of my being to not immediately just like throw my hand in the air and say, I want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of this. I'm flying down from Minneapolis to Dallas tomorrow to be a part of this. Like, it just, even the concept, I even dug a ton into it, so I can't wait to hear more, but the concept in and of itself already is fascinating to me. And so I'd love to hear more from you about the planetarium shows that you're putting together and what that all entails.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, I'm a physics major at UTA, which is University. It's part of the University of Texas system. It's here in Arlington, Texas.
You are the smartest musician that we've had on this podcast yet so far, for sure, by every measure. Yep, it's true.
You should see me cry when I'm working on my calculus homework. It's bad. So
that's so great.
So and UTA has a planetarium, and I went to a show last year. It was some local Fort Worth musicians, and they were like, we're going to go improvise during a planetarium show. People, come on out. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like right up my alley. And there's not an ambient music scene here in Fort Worth. Mm-hmm. It's mostly in Dallas, but Fort Worth it doesn't have that vibe quite as present here. And Arlington's in between Dallas and Fort Worth. So I went, and it was so cool. And there's just something different about live music. You know that it's being performed right there in the room, and you're watching, you're going through the universe, and you're stopping by Pleiades, and you're like, okay, that's cool. So then I was like, okay, well, I'm an event producer. I'm a marketer. I know how to put shows on. So I will hit them up whenever I'm, in the spring semester and see if they're interested in collaborating. So I hit them up, and they were like, yes, absolutely. And so I put an artist call out, and I've gotten so many amazing people who want to perform, and I'm really excited. I'm studying physics, and I want to go into space physics, plasma physics. It's space weather. It's basically how the sun hurls globs of plasma at us, and that causes aurora. It causes Wi-Fi issues if it's strong enough, which right now we are getting hit by, or it could be on, I think it's on its way right now. A pretty strong X flare coming from the sun right now. So
wow.
I think that stuff is absolutely fascinating, and that's the world I want to go into. The other thing is when the particles hit the ionosphere, they make sounds. And so one of my goals is to study the sounds of that, all of that is making. And so overall, weaving science and art, STEAM is like, you have STEM, but then insert an A, and you have art in there as well. Yeah. There is a lot of the big companies are starting to have like art programs, like CERN over in Switzerland. They have an artist in residence now. And then NASA has art programs and that kind of things. So this is just, I was like, okay, well, art, music, planetarium makes sense. Let's do this. Yeah. So first shows this month. One of the other things that inspired me was there's a couple guys up in Canada. They go by the name System Sounds.
Sure.
They actually sonify the audio of data collected from the magnitude of this galaxy, all the stars in this galaxy, and the magnitude, and then when they formed and that kind of thing, and they turn it into music. Wow. Yeah. So it's that kind of thing that is so cool to me, and it's also just a different way to tell a story about data. That kind of thing. So
such interesting points of inspiration isn't even the right word to say, but like just what's at the genesis, what's at the origin of this concept that we're going to turn into a new sonic piece of art. I just love where you're headed with this. It makes me think in, 1,000 different directions that perhaps I don't normally will myself to do. And I love it. It's fascinating, Tiffiny. It really is. I can't wait to see more. Is this going to be like, are you guys doing video recording at this as well as audio recording? Like, is this something that people outside of like the Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington area are going to be able to see or listen to? Or what does that look like?
I will for sure want to record an audio feed, and I mean, I don't, not like any kind of professional video, at least not yet or not now, but I've got like a little camera on my iPhone, and so I for sure want to like get footage, like just set it up on a tripod and let it go, maybe live stream it on YouTube or something like that. So I definitely want to capture the vibe. The only other place that I found planetarium shows is in Germany, and they record all of their stuff. And so you can go watch and listen to what they're doing over there. Yeah. And it really is just tripod camera and then recording the audio from the board.
Yep. This has been so fascinating. I love, not just your music, but your approach. It's so fun to hear the way that you come at it and yet create these incredible music results. Thanks for being so faithful to that. It's awesome. Okay, here we go, Tiffiny. I'm going to come at you with the all ambient lightning round questions. Are you ready for this? I give you no prep whatsoever. And you can go as long or as short as you want. These are just going to be rapid fire in the sense of like whatever comes off the tip of your tongue is what we're going to go with. So here we go. The all ambient lightning round. Tiffiny, what are you currently geeking out about right now? Like whether it's an instrument or some piece of music or like a plug-in or some gear or whatever, what are you geeking out about right now?
Well, honestly, I'm geeking out about the volcano in Iceland about to erupt, but in the music realm.
That's a great answer.
Yeah, I'm geeking out about, I'm working on a new video series. I'm basically just calling it, what does X instrument sound like going through this kind of pedal?
Yeah.
And not a guitar. Not guitars. So I just recorded actually today. What does my Rhodes sound like going through a fuzz pedal? That kind of thing. Just stuff people aren't doing, but they want to know.
That's so cool. It's awesome. Okay. What is one weird thing about you that most people do not know?
I'm just going to say it. So I don't drink.
Yeah.
So my vice, my go-to is I will totally eat a whole roll of Mentos.
Mentos.
Like I eat it like a bag of M&Ms. Yeah.
Got it. Wow. There it is. Your breath is just spot on. And that's amazing. I love it. That's great. Just make sure you don't drink, what is it? Diet Coke and Mentos. Is that that's the heralded
I mean, I've
thing,
done it. Nothing happened.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Amazing. Well, if you get a care package from All Ambient, that's, a couple pallets of Mentos. Don't be surprised. That's great.
Oh my God.
Cool.
Okay. Awesome.
Well, Tiffiny, what is something, and you can be as controversial with this as you want, or you can be totally silly with it or whatever, but what is something that you think that almost nobody agrees with you on? Again, keep it as lighthearted as you want or go as crazy as you want. Completely fair game, whatever you want to do.
I don't even know, because I am very opinionated. I guess I'll just say the last thing. So there's South by Southwest. There's the whole like fair pay thing.
Yeah.
I was very much like, so the value that festival gives newer artists is priceless. I've gotten so many amazing opportunities that was not cashed. And that doesn't mean that I also don't think artists should be fairly paid. Two things can be true. And the Book of the music community is very much like on fair pay, boycott South by Southwest. And I don't agree. I totally disagree. Like that festival,
sure.
Nobody's telling me to say this. I'm very much for that festival. Yeah. Also, what is fair pay? What is fair pay actually? Because what about pay gap? What about socioeconomic, racial pay differences? Like you can't say that this number is fair pay. And that's what that other side of the community is saying, that this exact number, that's fair pay for South by Southwest. And I'm like, no, it's not. So
those are all valuable questions. Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks for sharing that. Seriously. Final one for you. What would you tell the beginning musician version of yourself? So if you were to go back like 10, 15, maybe even 20 years, what would you tell the beginning musician version of yourself?
I would probably tell her what I actually have a note to myself on my Nord for every time I play. I'm like, they're going to know they're going to know that I'm just like faking up here. They're going to know. And it's like, no, nobody is paying attention to those things. They're paying attention to how the music makes them feel. So you should just write how you feel. Like, just create how you feel, because that's what humans connect to. And that's why AI cannot replace human-made music. That's the other thing there's another thing that I don't agree with.
It's true.
Everybody agrees with.
It's so true.
Yeah, the AI music I've listened to I'm like, no, there's no competition here. This is horrible.
It's going to be quite the world to watch and see what goes down for sure.
Yeah.
But seriously, Tiffiny, I got to be honest. I'm kind of disappointed that this is already coming to an end, because I feel like, number one, I feel like we're just getting started. But number two, like, you are an inspiration, and you are, like, I already thinking to myself, like, when's the next time that we can have this conversation again and go even further, and for you to explore even more territory and encourage and inspire people to an even further degree. You're doing it right. And I just want to say thank you for, not selfishly for me, but, for all of us. Just thanks for being so faithful to the angle that you bring to this whole thing. And yeah, I'm really glad we got the chance to talk today. Thanks for being on the All Ambient podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was great.
Thank you again for listening to the All Ambient podcast. Music throughout today's episode was from Housekeys' release Exploded Views. And you can find all of this music along with a bunch of other incredible songs, bundles, and other resources from an amazing group of composers and producers at all-ambient.com. And be sure to use the promo code podcast25. That's podcast25. And you'll get 25% off of any product at all-ambient.com. It's a great opportunity to save even more on an incredible resource for your next film, video, or project. Don't wait for another second. Head over to allambient.com and use promo code podcast25. Again, that's podcast25 to get 25% off of your next purchase. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast so you can catch every conversation we have with all these incredible people who share the same passion. I'm looking forward to the next time. I hope that you are too. Can't wait to see you then. And until then, have an incredible day. Here's hoping that this music and the heart behind it makes your day and life that much better. See you next time.